teacher friends, welcome back to the Adaptive Classroom. Today I'm going to talk about how I create my daily schedule, how I use ULS in the classroom, and how I plan my centers. So first things first, how I create my daily schedule. It's a question that I get asked pretty often. So this is what works in my classroom. I hope it works for yours. And as I go over how to create the daily schedule, I'm actually going to also show you how I use my planner to write out my daily schedule as well. So let's get started. So my first tip is to write in your established times. These are parts of the day that are already set in stone and will always happen. Things like arrival, recess, dismissal. So go ahead and write those parts in your schedule first. My second tip is to write in your must-haves. These are things like circle time, centers, lunch, phonics, whole group lesson. They are things that you need in your day but are more flexible than your arrival time and your dismissal time. And then lastly, put in the fun stuff. These are things like cooking, gardening, art, sensory, free choice. So I'm going to show you how I plan that in my planner. So this is the digital planner that I created myself because I felt like it fits the needs of my classroom, and I'm going to go to the notes page so we can make a rough draft of our schedule. I already wrote out the time outline of my day. So we start at 8 o'clock and we dismiss at 2 o'clock. So my first tip was to begin with established times. So 8 o'clock is our arrival time. I'm just gonna drop that in. So that is our day. And I go to lunch when the students go to lunch. And my tip for staff breaks would be, it depends on the needs of your classroom. So for instance, in my classroom, I would never break the aides during the students' lunch because most of my students need assistance with feeding. And so my aides need to be present. But in your classroom, your students may be more independent in eating, and this may be a great time for staff to start taking their breaks. You can also send staff to break during like the whole group time because students are safe in my classroom. They're seated, they're not going anywhere, and I can keep an eye on them. So this would be my phonics and my math time. But in your classroom, you may have more behavioral needs. You may have more medical needs where staff needs to be present. So it just depends on your schedule in your classroom. So the next thing that I want to go over is a question I get asked all the time. How do I use ULS in my classroom? So first of all, I want to say that I don't use everything. I want to reiterate that I don't use everything. If you look at ULS, it can be super overwhelming. You open up the unit lessons and you have literally over 100 lessons that you can teach. And so I will tell you what I do use. Okay, so what I do use are mostly ELA and math. And then when it happens to pop up in the unit, I'll use art, cooking, and science as well. So for ELA, I use the Leveled book. They're easy read books, and they're fiction and nonfiction stories in our center time. And then I'll do the letter and sound activities and the writing time as a whole group during phonics ELA whole group time. And then for math, we use the number sense and number recognition. We use that in the centers. And then we do measurement, telling time, money, and graphing as a whole group over the span of a month. All of those things take about a week to teach in my classroom. So the measurement, we take a full week on measurement, we take a full week on telling time, we take a full week on money, and we take a full week on graphing. Graphing is actually my favorite activity in the ULS lesson unit. I've made it so that it's super interactive for our students. It comes with a survey. So I send my students out in their equipment, in their mobility equipment. They take out their AAC devices and they survey their peers during recess. And then they'll come back in after recess when we do our whole group math time, and we will tally the results of the survey and we'll do all the activities together. So graphing is by far one of my favorites just because I've adapted it to make it interactive and purposeful for the kiddos in my classroom. We use science, cooking, and art. All three of those are not available for every unit. When they do come up, we'll use that for Fun Friday. That's when we do all our fun activities. If you've been following me for a while, you'll see that we do a lot of Fun Friday activities. So I'm going to go ahead and use my planner again to go ahead and write that out for you so you can see what that looks like. Okay, so I'm using my planner again. I went back to the index. I'm going to open it up to monthly lesson plan because I'm going to be planning out the month of centers for ULS. I'm also going to be looking over at my laptop because my ULS lessons are over here and I can see. I'll try to pop it up on the screen so you can kind of see what I'm looking at, but if you log into your ULS, I'm just looking at the unit lesson for the month of September, which is This Is My School. So that's the lesson topic, which is This is my school. And students are learning about the different roles in government and things like that. So they're learning about authority figures, in school, and they're learning about rules, school rules. Okay, so we have 5 centers, which I'll go over a little later, but I'm just going to go over math and ELA centers and Friday Fun Day because that's what I pulled from ULS. And yeah, okay, so for Monday, ELA, maybe we should color code it just so it's easier for you to see. Yeah, we'll do that. ELA and math. ELA. I'll probably speed this part of the video up because I'm taking a while. So Monday and Tuesday we read the story. So we read, I'm gonna zoom in, so we read, and the story this month is, let me make that prettier for you. Is it for you or is it for me? Okay, we're gonna read My Cool School. And then we're gonna do the same thing for Tuesday. Now we're doing the comprehension part. So each story that comes with ULS comes with comprehension activities. So the first time they're in that center, they read the story. The next time they do the comprehension. Of course, they review the story again, and then they'll go over comprehension. So then, I hope you're getting this. We're just gonna go through ELA first. So then the next story in the unit lesson is club rules. So they're gonna read club rules. do, you guessed it, comprehension the next time they're in those centers. And then they're gonna read the nonfiction, they're gonna read the fiction story, which is Froggy Goes to School. I'm just gonna write Froggy. And then they're gonna read the nonfiction book that comes with ULS, which is What Are Rules and Laws? I'm just gonna put rules, laws. And then they're gonna do comprehension activities. With ULS, they come with 2 adapted books already in the unit lesson plans, and then they have a nonfiction and a fiction book that you can either check out from the library, purchase yourself, or they'll have a link to a YouTube video that you can watch with your class. And then with the nonfiction and fiction books, if I'll go ahead and review them, and if I like them, I'll use them. If not, I'll find something similar. Like a good book to use with this unit, since we're learning about rules, is No David. That could be a fun one for the fiction book if you didn't want to read Froggy or whatever else you have in your collection. Okay, so now for math, we do the same activity for 1 week and then a different activity for the next week, and so on and so forth. So for the first week, we're gonna do count how many. I'm gonna change the color and count how many. And that's gonna be the same. And then the next week we're gonna do count who has more. Who has more? And then I'm sure that you've looked at the math, and I've also heard other teachers say, like, this is not enough to last a center or a whole lesson. So I like to supplement with math games. So we'll do like count the number of bear manipulatives or count the number of cubes, and then we'll give each student a different amount of manipulatives, and we'll say who has more, this student or this student. So we use ULS, but then we also adapt it with the things we have in our classroom, if that makes sense. Sorry if I keep saying that, I just hope I make sense. And then we do adding to 10 the next week. And then we do adding to 20. Like I said, we supplement math games to make it fun. Okay, and then this month we already did, we made, for fun, we made dough, and that was from ULS. And then we're also, because in the month of September we talk about apples, we're going to, I try to do a science, a cooking, an arts and crafts, an adapted PE type thing, and then like a music or something else that's fun. So we'll do, so the next week we'll do apples, apple roll up, just cooking. We're going to make roll ups, and then we're going to do a fun name craft. And then we are going to play baseball because baseball's fun. Okay. So that's, I'm sorry it's messy, but that is an overview of what I take from ULS and use in my centers, and I hope that helps. So the next thing I'll go over is my centers. Okay, so we have 5 centers in my room. Like I explained a little bit earlier, we have 2 academic centers, we have 2 fun centers, and then we have a teacher center. So the first center, the teacher center, is my center, and this is where I do the assessments that I take from ULS. I also do, we work specifically on that student's IEP goals so I can take data. The next center is a fun center, it's the red center. My centers are color coded. So the red center is fine motor activities, this is cut and paste activities, puzzles, put in, take out type activities for the students. And then we have our yellow center, which is our literacy center. So this is the center where we use our ULS activities that I just mentioned. So we'll read the story, we'll do comprehension. And then we'll also do the journal writing from ULS as well. Okay, the next center is the math center, and that's where we use the number recognition and number sense activities from ULS. And then we have the blue center, which is an independent center. Depending on the needs of your student, this may look differently for each student. Some students are able to do task boxes, or a lot of my students do the cause and effect switches because they're at that stage of learning how to do cause and effect. So that is it. Those are the 5 centers we do in my classroom. That's how I use ULS. That's how I plan my daily schedule. I hope this helped. And yeah, if you have any other questions, please let me know and I'll try to answer them and get back to you. Until next time, bye!